What's up? It's Josh with Time Machine Creative, and I'm gonna start a vlog. You might call it an art vlog, and this is mostly to document the process of this stage of my art career and art journey. I don't think I've done a good job in documenting it historically, and I think I've learned a lot of things along the way that would help other people, but also it helps me in the sense that as I learn these things, I can make a note to remember them in the future. And I'm at a crossroads with this journey at this point because I find myself pivoting again. And when I say pivoting, if you're not familiar with my journey so far, I left my job in 2021, March of 2021. So we're pushing up on 2 years ago now. And my idea was to take my art to the next level, learn art and learn comic book art specifically, and kind of launch this comic book company with my comic book series, and make comics, sell them, create a fan base, and grow in that sense. What I found is that the comic thing is not working out fast enough for me to keep on that path full time. Before this, I was pretty much literally spending all my time drawing these comics and writing them and so on, outside of taking classes to improve here and there. But what was happening was I was not taking the comic was taking too much time from the classes part, which I needed more of the classes part to improve on the art part. So although I got better at executing as far as making pages of a comic, making a comic, putting it out, and learning that side, I wasn't improving as fast enough on the art side for me to be happy with where I was as an artist. So I'm pulling back and I'm diving into the learning side, and which brings me here, the documenting side of that learning process. That being said, another reason why I'm pivoting from the comic book world is because it's not a traditional like job market. It's not like, okay, I've put my own comic on the back burner. Now I'm going to focus on getting hired by Marvel and DC and Image. It's actually pretty hard to get into, and there's very limited spots, it seems. Not to say that I won't do that eventually, but that I can't bank on that, I don't think, as far as a dependable income. So what do I do now? Well, along the way, besides the comic book side, I've always been interested in other forms of art and other ways to other industries and other ways to make money with art. And one of those is, character art and concept art. So I'm going to start diving into the 2D side of the concept art classes. And I've done that I've taken a couple concept art classes. What I want to do now is, dive in fully and keep going in that vein, and get a style that is acceptable to the different industries that hire concept artists. And those industries are a bunch of them. There's a bunch of industries that hire concept artists, from video game to movies to TV shows to so on and so forth. There's actually a lot of industries hiring concept artists, and I see jobs pop up a lot. And I've applied to some of them. I don't think I've had the skill, the portfolio, and so on to be accepted. And so on the 2D side, that's definitely something that I want to be improving on going forward. So I'm going to be documenting that. Besides that, an additional skill that a lot of these concept art positions and character art positions require is the 3D side. So essentially, this is why I'm diving into the 3D side as well. So I've started learning Blender, I've started learning Maya, and I have a plan in place to get a certification on the 3D side to complement the 2D side. And so, although I'm pivoting and changing direction, I'm not giving up on my comic book in the long run. I just have to put it to the side right now and focus on how I can start making a dependable income, because I'm going to be needing to very soon. So I wanted to actually show you some of the things that I've been doing, and you can see the outfit change. Essentially recorded that part, the first part yesterday, and now it's morning time and getting this second part in. And so I wanted to show you what I've been doing in only a couple of weeks at this point. So this is my YouTube channel. You can see that I created a couple videos about starting this process. Let's see. Here's the kind of like the first part of this first class in Blender. Blender is really cool, and the class I'm taking by NextTut on Skillshare is really good too. And yeah, we kind of just started off making a barrel. We moved on to this skull, which was really cool. Made a dice, and then in this same first class that I'm taking for Blender, we got into making this character sculpt. And so this is how it looks, and this is all in the first couple days of me taking this class. And I definitely enjoy learning Blender, and it's a free program. But I mentioned one of the certification. Actually, before I get into that, let me show you what I've learned in Blender. So this is the latest part of the Blender class. This is the character sculpt, and so forgive me if I struggle with like the controls. I'm learning two programs, Blender and Maya, at the same time, and I'll get into Maya in a little bit. But sometimes I get the controls confused. But what's cool about this class is that Blender, first of all, is free, so that's super cool. But we learn how to sculpt a character, and this is like the detailed version of that. And what that requires is a bunch of little shapes, right? So if you can imagine the graphics processing that is required to make all these detailed shapes, but to get it to work in animation or in like video games, what you'll have to do is create a low poly version of that, and that is what you see here. And so this low poly version has much less information, much less data in it, so you can see that there's much less shapes. If I would do this on the more detailed version, there would be hundreds of little triangles and squares. And we also learned the topo flow, the low poly topo flow, to like get these shapes to flow in a way that will maximize how this form will move in an animation. So I haven't got to the animation part yet because I kind of had to put Blender to the side because the certification program that I wanted to learn, I don't have to say that since I didn't do anything, requires to learn Maya and ZBrush. So I plan on starting that class for the certification next year, like March or April. And to skip some of the classes, I wanted to take some classes on my own. So, and this test run for Maya, the 30-day run, is taking advantage of that so I can learn as much as possible, and I'm learning a lot. And so this right now, this program's being a little weird because I don't know why this character's not showing up, but essentially the way they're teaching it here, again, I'm struggling with the controls. The way they're teaching it here is that you start off with the low poly forms, and then we're going to get into sculpting later in a different class or in ZBrush. I'm not exactly sure, but essentially the long and the short of it is that I'm learning both. We got to make some cool stuff in this program. Made some bowling pins, some wine glasses. It all seems pretty simple, but it does take time and take some learning. Let's see. Keyblade. I guess if you play Kingdom Hearts, I never did that much, maybe a couple times with a friend. Growing up, you might recognize this Keyblade. And I think the coolest one that we've made is this sword. And he even showed us how we can like overlay that image as kind of like a stand-in texture if we wanted to. And I didn't do that part. But we are going to get into texturing in the future, and essentially that's kind of one of the things they want to see you be doing. And so yeah, I'm going to be learning all that. At the same time, I'm also trying to improve on my concept art. Actually, let me go ahead and show you some of that. The way that I'm going about the concept art process is that I looked up kind of like what are the best concept art classes, because it's kind of hit or miss when you go into like Skillshare and stuff like that. And so it's always good to like get references as far as what you want to be learning, right? And so what I found was a guy that not only has his own like class, like on his own website, but also these a lot of the classes are offered on Skillshare. And so one of the first classes are figure drawing, and I'm always of the mindset of go back as far as possible if you need to and reintroduce yourself to some of these basic things, because obviously I can draw anatomy, and I've taken anatomy classes, I've taken rendering classes, but so I could just say like, oh, I already know this stuff and skip this class, which is a figure drawing class, and then go into like the more specialized stuff. But I'm always of the mindset of try to break it down first. It's always good to revisit some of these basics, and you always end up learning more than what you did in the first time, and you always end up learning what you could improve on. So this is a figure drawing class. We've done the arms, legs, torso, and feet, and hands. Only the torso and the legs are on this computer, but I've done all of those so far, and there's going to be even more. So what's cool about the concept art and the 2D side of this learning process is that the stuff that I was learning and practicing on the comic side is going to add to what I will be doing on the concept art side. And what I'm going to be learning on this concept art side is going to add towards the comic side. So when I do start drawing my comic again, I'm going to take some of the things that I learned from these classes and put it into that comic, and it's going to be better for it. And I'm just going to have a better overall execution and better overall style for that. So that's the cool thing about all of this. And even the 3D, like learning to sculpt these things in 3 dimensions is going to add to your library in your brain to where you can pick from in drawing hands, faces, legs, arms, so on, so that you're not just picking from the 2D versions of what that learning is, right? So it all plays into each other, and that's kind of how my mind works. It's never like black or white. I always try to find the gradients of how things work. There's a lot of work going on outside, so if you hear some background noises, sorry about that. But that's how my brain works. That it's all tied together, and even my engineering background plays into this. Even my sales background plays into all of this. So it's never, oh, I've stopped doing one thing so that I can continue doing something else. No, it's more like I've learned something in one path, and I'm going to bring it to this other path, and vice versa. And so that's kind of how I live my life, and hopefully you kind of see that part of how I do things through this series. And but yeah, that's kind of how the journey's going so far. It's only been a couple weeks or so that I've decided to go all in on this, and this is my first vlog about it. So I hope it helps to see some of my process and like my journey and my thought processes. And otherwise, I hope you get to know me a little bit as a person, as an artist, as a creator, and I hope I'm not too boring. So appreciate you. Hope to see you again.